Everyone has different goals when it comes to points and miles. Maybe yours is simply being able to afford to travel at all. Maybe it's taking your family to all 7 continents. Maybe it's enjoying a lay flat seat in the sky. This world of points and miles isn't one size fits all. Listen in as we discuss what our rich points life looks like now and how it's evolved over the years. Welcome to Points Talk with the Travel Mom Squad. We are 3 moms who've discovered how to leverage credit card welcome offers to get hundreds of thousands of dollars of travel expenses for nearly free. We've used credit card points and miles to take vacations to places like Hawaii, Paris, Greece, Maldives, Japan, and so much more. And the best part, we each still have 800 plus credit scores. Imagine being able to take the vacation of your dreams for nearly free. It's totally possible, and we're here to show you how. Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Pam, Alex's mom.
And I'm Jess. Let's talk points. So today's show is going to be a little bit different than usual, and this was my idea. So Alex and Pam get to just go along with what I wanted to do today. There is a personal finance guru, I guess you could call him, named Ramit Sethi, and I am a really big fan of his Your Rich Life philosophy. Basically, it means deciding what is important to you, even if it doesn't make sense to other people. So examples he gives are like buying $1,000 cashmere sweatpants, which I feel like most people, when they think of like someone who's rich, that might be something they do. But then also like picking your kids up from school every day, buying a round of drinks for your friends when you go out, or traveling for 8 weeks every year, which is probably what Pam's rich life looks like. Anyways, today I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about what our rich points life looks like. And I think what our rich points and miles life when we first started 8, 9, 10 years ago probably looks a little bit different than what it is today. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through like how it has evolved and some things that we really value when it comes to points and miles that may not make sense to other people, but is really important to us. So Alex, I thought you could kick it off with what your rich points life looks like when you started.
Okay. So I started, I got into points and miles in 2017. My goal was to take a trip with just my husband. So we'd been married for we got married in the beginning of 2009. So 6 years or 8 years at this point. We'd had a few kids by now, and we had not been on a trip without our kids since, we'd never gone on a trip without our kids. And I think I want to say our oldest was probably 7 at the time. So that's a long time. And so my goal was for us to be able to go on a trip. My rich points life was you and me, or me and my husband, we're going to Hawaii, and we're going to see how this points and miles thing goes. And it went fantastic, and we loved it. And so then it just kind of snowballed from there. So following that trip, what I wanted to then be able to do was to take my family on vacations. And I feel like for us, for my husband and I, both of our personalities were more frugal, I would say. We're not like big spenders. We like to save. And so for us, it was really hard to think about, okay, we're going to spend all this money on traveling instead of saving it for a rainy day. Or I drove the same car I got when I was 16 for 16 years. I think we sold it when I was 32 or 34. So maybe even 18 years. It was a very long time that we had this car. And so I knew we were going to need a new car. I knew we wanted a big family. We were going to outgrow our first house. And so it was very hard for me to justify, I'm going to go spend all this money on travel instead of putting this money aside for my growing family, to pay for the things my kids need, to pay for a new car, to do all of those things. That was a really a mental block for me, I guess, when it came to traveling. As much as I loved it, I just didn't feel, I almost felt like maybe it was selfish to be like, oh, we're going to go on these trips. And I don't know. So that to me was the rich points life at that point, was I can go on a trip and still save money. That was huge. That was I am doing this because I get the best of both worlds. I get to travel with my family and I get to save my money. So yeah, that's what my rich points life looked like in 2017, was going on a trip with my husband and being able to save money and go on trips. And when we started, our first trip was Hawaii, and that's a pretty big trip. But a lot of our other trips were taking the kids to the beach in California, visiting family, things like that. We weren't doing these really outlandish type trips or these big bucket list destinations. We didn't take our kids to Hawaii till we were doing this for a few years. So that's kind of what it looked like just starting out. Those were my goals.
So it sounds like you wanted to be able to travel without sacrificing your ability to continue saving and meeting all those financial goals that you had. Like it didn't
Yeah.
have to be either or. You realized, oh, I could just do both at one time.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Pam, you're up.
Okay, well, first of all, Jess, I like this topic. I think it's really interesting, especially because I think everybody's rich life looks so different. I know there's friends of mine who look at what I do and go, how the heck could she travel like that? How can she stand to get on another airplane? How could she stand to be gone that long? I have friends who just want to go and travel in their fifth wheels all the time. And I say, great, that's wonderful. I have people, homebodies, friends who never want to go anywhere. And that's great because, all of us have a different philosophy in life, what we want to do, what we feel like makes our life rich. So my travel doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It doesn't even make very much sense to my husband, to be honest. He thinks I'm nuts. But I have always had a deep desire to travel the world. I wanted to see places that I saw in pictures. I wanted to see other cultures. I wanted to see other world religions. I wanted to just make the world seem smaller by travel. And as a nurse, my way of making that happen was to pick up extra shifts. And we all know that my family has joked that there's only so many extra shifts a person can do in a week. And so I knew when I started in 2017, thanks to Alex, who first brought it up, and I will be forever indebted to her for that. I knew that I wasn't going to have extra shifts to pick up in retirement. That wasn't going to be a thing. And we were pretty good about putting away retirement money. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to find a way to travel. That was non-negotiable. But I knew that I wasn't going to probably be able to travel a lot because we needed to make sure that our retirement money lasted, as long as we lasted. And so I think that to me, my Rich Points life was the ability to travel and not have to go into my retirement. That was huge. That was like, this is amazing. I can travel more than I've ever traveled before. And I don't have to travel, by using our retirement money, which made my husband really happy.
Well, I know you've said, when you were talking just now about how you would pick up extra shifts at work to, sock more money away to be able to travel. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking that points and miles, like your rich life with points and miles allowed you to work less and travel more.
Oh, yes.
Because you weren't having to pick up those extra shifts anymore because you were saving thousands of dollars. You were flying nearly free and you were staying at hotels for $0. And so you got to work less and travel more as a result of points and miles.
Exactly. And I can remember one time coming back from visiting my daughter, Lindsay, who lives in London. And I was on an economy plus ticket. And as I went through to check in, there was an opportunity to pay probably $600 for a business class seat. And I swallowed really hard and did it. Because I thought, I want to see what that is like. I can't even imagine. I can remember walking from economy class and walking past business class and seeing their blankets and their lay flat seats. And I thought, oh, if only would be amazing. And I did that one time. And I thought, I don't know if I'll ever be able to pull the trigger on that again. Because as I did it too, I even thought, I'm just going to pick up an extra couple shifts to pay for this, this one time splurge that I did. And just had no clue that could be something that could become part of my life on the norm. And I also remember that going by airport lounges. And I mean, I saw them for years and years and years when I was in airports. But the only people I thought that went into them were men who were wearing suits and carrying briefcases. I hadn't a clue that they were accessible. I didn't have any idea that that could be part of my rich life too. And so I think that those are some of the things when I first started out was, and the biggest thing was just hoping that when I started out that I would be able to do some of these things, and most importantly that I wouldn't have to take a big bite into my retirement. So Jess, what about you?
So I started back in 2015. We started as a way to be able to afford to go visit Ted's family in Chicago because it's expensive, like going back and forth. We wanted to go, we used to only be able to go once a year, and we would pay cash for it, and then I was like, we really need to go more often. And so this was our way to be able to go back and forth multiple times a year. And so we used to, before I started with Points and Miles, we would stay with my in-laws. I want to preface this by saying I have a great relationship with my in-laws. I have nothing against them, but they live in a condo. And so we would stay with them. And so it was them too. And then us and Molly. And, when you're older, you're kind of set in your ways. And so we would go stay with them, and they would be like, well, we have to watch this show. And they have their routine, And so, and it's like Molly's 2 or 3 years old. She's trying to take a nap. They're watching their show. She can't sleep. And so I was like, I would love to not have to stay with them, because it was like we had our routine we needed to stick to. They had their routine they needed to stick to, and they were like clashing. So we started redeeming points to stay at the Hyatt Place, the 5,000 point a night Hyatt Place. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, we can still go visit family. We can still see them, but we can have our separate space. And it was only 5,000 points a night. And I was just like, this is my rich life. Like being able to fly Southwest Airlines to Chicago and being able to stay at the Hyatt Place where we had our own room and Molly could nap. And like, that was my rich life back in like 2015, 2016, 2017. And then I learned in like 2016 about the companion pass. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can fly someone free. Like, that is amazing. That's going to change our lives, And so now I'm like, oh, I'm going to fly Emirates first class and like take a shower in the sky. But back then I was like, I can fly someone for completely free on Southwest Airlines. Like, this is amazing. And I posted this question in our Facebook group a few weeks ago, and it got a great response, which is why we decided to do this episode. But one of the things I said in there is I said, it's funny because for Alex and I, our rich life is like being able to take advantage of the companion pass and fly a kid or a spouse for free. And for Pam, her rich life is like Points and Miles allow me to not have to fly Southwest Airlines. Like, I can fly United or I can fly Delta, And so, but that's the thing is everyone has different goals and different desires when it comes to Points and Miles. And so one's not better than the other. They're just different.
Yep, I agree 100%, on all of that. You don't have to do what we do. It's just different. My friends don't have to travel. My husband doesn't have to travel. Everybody has their own rich life, what they're trying to do.
Well, and it's funny because there seem to be like two fractions of people. Like, one is, oh, I can't believe people fly business class. I can't believe people spend all their points flying business class. I would rather take multiple trips a year. And then another group of people is like, I can't believe people fly economy. I would never survive a flight in economy. But I was never like, even when I first started and I was going crazy over the companion pass and that was the best thing ever, I was never someone who was like, oh, I'm never going to fly business class. I'm never going to stay at luxury hotels. I couldn't even fathom being able to do that at the time. But I felt like I could always understand why people wanted to do that, And I think that women and moms and families do belong in those places. I think it's important to see not just men in business class. And so, like, when we started, I think we all agreed that, like, that's a lot of what we saw. Was the reason we started this business and this account was to show that, like, women and moms and families could do this too, you know? And so I was always like, I want to be in business class. Women deserve to be in business class. My kids deserve to be in business class. I just didn't think it was possible. But here we are.
And Molly's been in business class.
Molly has been in business class. And Pam, I think I told you this, when we were flying home from Scotland, we were in economy, and all of a sudden she just started saying, my legs hurt, my legs hurt, my legs hurt. And Ella said, do you want to get up and walk around? And she said, no, I want to be in business class.
Oh my goodness.
I just looked at her and I was like, you are Pam. When Pam was 10 years old, this is what she was like.
No, I would have been if I'd been in points, credit card points. But I do want to give a little disclaimer. I'm a lot older than most of you that are doing points per miles. And most of my life, 80% of my life, 90% of my life, I have happily and gratefully traveled in economy class. But if I had the points and miles, if I know how to earn them and to redeem them, I will happily do all my international travel in business class now.
Okay. So now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about how our rich lives have evolved over the past several years. Like I said, a lot of what we're doing now probably wasn't even on our radar as being possible when we first got started with this. It took me 7 years to fly business class. So I opened my very first travel rewards card in 2015. I did not fly business class until 2022. So I was kind of like a little bit of a slow mover. When I feel like I'm making up for last time now.
You're more than making up for lost time.
But yeah, so Alex, why don't you kick it off with like how your rich life has evolved?
Okay, so first of all, staying, like, for me, my rich life of points and miles, one of the main things of it is being able to travel in ways that I could never afford. So for me, majorly, that means luxury hotels. I love a good business class flight. I'm not going to say I don't, especially if it's a red eye, because I don't sleep great. But for me, I would prioritize my hotel depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing. But there's just something about staying in a nice hotel. Like, sometimes people will ask, if you could only stay in nice hotels or like fly business class, what would you choose? Like, for the rest of your life? And I would always choose hotels. Or like if you could have free flights forever or free hotels, I would choose free hotels.
Yeah.
Because flights, like, you can find good cash rates sometimes. You can find good deals. Hotels, like, they're not automatically one day going to be like, oh, the Park Hyatt Paris has a sale for nights for $200 a night. Like, that's not going to happen.
Well, and the other thing is you're at your hotel for so much longer than you're in the air.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if I have to be in economy for 12 hours, but I'm going to be at my hotel for a week, like, I'm choosing hotel.
100%. Yeah. So for me, I really, really, really love staying in a nice hotel. It just feels so relaxing. It just really makes me happy. And so that to me is my rich points life now, is being able to stay at luxury hotels and hotels that I would never pay $1,000 a night to sleep somewhere. Like, that's just bananas to me. Like, I'm not going to do that. And so to be able to use points to stay somewhere like that, I'll do that every time I can. I will say a caveat, though, is I have a hard time staying in places that aren't really nice now. I mean, I'll stay at Hyatt places. I have no problem with hotels like that. I just need them to be clean. And like, I really love when they're newer. So that for me is a huge one. My other part of my rich points life is being able to take my family to Hawaii every year. So like I said, I got started in 2017. 2021 was the first time that we took my kids to Hawaii. And so that, like, we obviously loved it. And so since then, we try to go every year, and we have the points to do so. So there's not a there's not a world where we would be doing that, where I'd be taking our 4 kids to Hawaii every year if it was not points and miles. So that's part of my rich points life now. Another thing is like, and I think this goes to where, someone else might say that's part of your rich points life, where it's different for everybody. But for me, part of my rich points life is not paying for hotels when we travel for my kids' sports. So that's not that glamorous. It's nothing super exciting. We are staying at Spring Hill Suites. We're staying at Hyatt Place. I try to find some nice clean ones, so we're good. But for other people, like, maybe they'd be like, well, I'm just going to pay my $200 a night. Sometimes they can be really expensive, though. If it's a popular tournament, they jack up those prices. And so for me, being able to say, oh, yeah, that's no big deal. We can totally, like, we don't live that far from Park City, but we always get a hotel night because we don't want to drive an hour. And we have, like, Sundays we have 4 games a day. And so it's like, we don't want to be driving around. We want to be comfortable. And my rich points life is being able to go to a hotel room between games, pick up some takeout, go eat it at our hotel room, be in the air conditioning, rest up, and then we go to our next game. Instead of driving back and forth all day long between the house and the game. So love being able to save money there and justify staying at a hotel. Especially I pretty much always use free night certificates for that. So I don't even have to like dip into my points really. So, and just if anyone's wondering, you get those every year with most hotel credit cards. You get an annual free night certificate, and those lower level points hotels can be really great options for that. Another part of my rich points life now is when there is bad weather on a trip, it's disappointing. I'm not going to say it's not disappointing, but it's not devastating. It's not like, oh my, like, for example, we went to Bora Bora, my mom and sister and I, in 2022, and we had rain for the first few days. And was it a bummer? 100%. But it was also like, well, just come back. Like, it would be so devastating if I'd spent, $12,000, $15,000 on that trip. But I hadn't. I'd spent hardly any money. And so it's like, okay, no big deal. I'll get points again and we'll come back and we'll plan to not come during the rainy season next time. So that's another one. And then lastly is just feeling like no destination is out of reach. Like the whole world is open to me. It's not like, oh, I can only travel domestically, or if I'm going internationally, Mexico's as far as we can go. It's like, oh no, we want to go to Europe. Okay, we can do that. Oh, we want to go to Australia. Okay, we can do that. So that to me, like when I first got started, that wasn't on my radar. It wasn't, I'm going to travel and see the whole world. It was like, we're going to go on trips that are local, or, we're going to stay in this small, and just in the United States, we're going to stay on the West Coast. And now it's like, okay, yeah, we can do whatever we want to do because we can do it for nearly free. So that's my rich points life now. What about you, Mom?
Let me just say, I love, love, love my rich points life. It is something I never in a million years could have dreamed that I could do. Never, ever. So one of the things I love, and I have a litany you guys have to listen to about my rich points life and how much I love it. First of all, I fly business class always internationally. The only time I think I haven't was on when Jess convinced me to do premium economy to Singapore. And I lived through it and it was fine. But in general, I will always be traveling business class internationally. I will be turning left. The other thing is that I am able to travel a lot. I think Jess said that I travel about 8 times a year. I think I travel closer to 12 times a year. It's just about every month.
Yeah.
And if it's not 1 month, it's probably twice another month. I can randomly hear about a great deal that pops up and I can book it. I don't have to stop and think about it. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the flexibility that I have being retired and having a supportive husband. And so when I heard about the Etihad apartment great sale, I booked it within hours. When I heard about a great deal on the African safari on points at the JW Marriott in Kenya, I booked it. I don't have to hesitate. I can see a beautiful picture of a place or hear someone tell me about a great place that they've traveled to. I can look it up and it's on my list. And it's not something that I have to even stop and consider. Should I, do a lot of research? It's like, I got the miles. I can go there. Let's make it happen. One thing I really love is, oh no, let's take it back a step. One thing I really don't love is getting to an airport early in the morning. I don't like to have to take a 6 o'clock flight out. And so because I have this Rich Points life, I can go to the airport the night before, and then I can get up at the last minute and get on my plane. I love that. I too, like Alex, and I know Jess too, love a good luxury hotel. The ability to stay for pennies on the dollar in some hotels, I couldn't even fathom of staying at. There's no way I would pay cash or some of the hotels that we stay at. But I absolutely love that I'm able to do that.
And you love a free breakfasts also.
Breakfasts. Yeah, free breakfasts. They're always good.
Well, it's funny because, I used to, when I first started with points and miles, to me, a free breakfast was like a Hyatt Place breakfast. Like, why are people trying to get free powder scrambled eggs and whole apples? And I didn't understand the level of luxury involved in some of these free breakfasts.
Yep. I know they're amazing. I now am always at an airport lounge. I have showered in an airport lounge. I have gotten massages in an airport lounge. I know it is part of the experience. And part of my planning a trip is to look and see what lounges I can go to. I've even gone to more than one. I know, shocking.
You mean one in the same day, not just one in your life, right?
Yes. One in the same day. Whoa, I've got 2 lounges. What a Rich Point life I lived.
So what you just said made me think of something too, is that our Rich Points life isn't just like, oh, we're going on a trip to Europe, and so we're going to Europe. The getting there is part of the experience. The going to the airport lounge, the flying the business class seat is all part of the travel experience. It's not just, I got to my destination, now the trip starts. The trip starts when we get to the airport. And that has been a
100%.
huge shift for all of us in how our travel works. It's the trip starts the minute you get to the airport because you're going to the lounge. You're hopping on a nice flight.
And it makes travel days so much less stressful. Like
Yeah.
when you are looking forward to going to the airport, when you know you have your pre-check and your clear and your lounge, and we have all of that because of credit cards. Those are all perks that we get from our credit cards. It's just so nice knowing like, I'm not going to have to wait in the huge long security line. I'm not even going to have to take the ID out of my bag. I'm not going to have to take my shoes off. I'm going to breeze through security, and I'm going to go to the lounge, and I'm going to get myself a drink and some food, and I'm just going to chill in the quiet lounge with the nice bathrooms until it's time for me to board my plane.
Yeah, totally. It's really crazy how it has all changed since we've gotten into this. And like you said before, Mom, it's really been life-changing. And you think of where we all started with our Rich Points life and where we are now. I don't think any of us could have fathomed, like that wasn't on our radar in 2015 and 2017. We were not thinking airport lounges, business class flights. I mean, maybe you were, Mom, maybe, but about the business class flights, maybe. But we could not in our wildest of dreams when we started the Points and Miles game, if you would have said, this is what your Rich Points life is going to be like in however many years it's been, I don't even know, we wouldn't have probably believed you because we didn't even know what was possible when we got started. And so it's just incredible what is possible with Points and Miles. It really, really is.
No, I'm continually pinching myself that this is my life. And then my last thing about my Rich Points life that I love, I have had 2 experiences in traveling internationally where something has gone wrong. And my trip I've had to reroute it at the last second. We're talking about I'm supposed to be somewhere, and that night I'm trying to reroute because of weather. So all about my safari that wasn't. I can't even imagine if I had paid cash for that. Safaris are $10,000 per person usually. If that had been canceled, And I had to make all those arrangements. And I didn't have credit card points and miles. I think I would have just sat in a puddle and cried and cried.
Well, did you? You still maybe you sat in a puddle and cried
I
for a
didn't.
minute.
No, I
Oh, okay.
didn't, because I
Good
knew
job.
that I had basically a lot of points and that I could make something out of this mess. And
Well, and I
so,
also think that's kind of where your stockpile comes in.
yes,
You're always opening cards, which is why you're able to randomly book a travel deal if it pops up. It's because you've built up that stockpile by opening up new cards regularly.
exactly. But if I had just paid cash, it would have been 10 times worse. It would have been much more stressful. And so I am really grateful for that ability to pivot and change things. So I love my Rich Points life. Thank you, Alex, for
Pam is literally rich when it comes to points because she has like 4 million of them, almost 5 million.
yeah. So I am living a Rich Points life in many ways, and I am very grateful to it. So Jess,
Pam is like Alex and Jess's rich points life goals, like hashtag goals. We want to be Pam when we grow up. In our next evolution is going to be Pam.
Pam doesn't pay for cute little children. She's not taking your children with her on trips yet. And her husband doesn't want to go quite as often as she does. So yes, I am very grateful for this great life. And Jess, what about you?
Well, Alex stole one of mine again, but it is
Sorry.
So my first one is that there's no destination off limits. Like I will be scrolling. Obviously, we follow a lot of travel accounts. And so I'm like scrolling through Instagram myself, and I will see like a reel or a carousel post of like a place that looks amazing that I've never been before. And I'm just like, okay, I got to figure out how to go there on points and miles. It's not like, oh, that looks so nice. I wish I could go there someday. It's like, when am I going to, it's not if, it's when am I going to go there? And so that's number one. Number two is sort of, Alex also said this, that the flight and the hotel used to just be a means to an end for me. Like, I'm just like, I want to go, for example, I want to go visit family in Chicago. I'm going to find like, I don't care what kind of airline I fly on. I just want to get there. I don't care where I stay. I just need a place to sleep. But now the flight and the hotel are part of the experience, and I'm able to really like build that into my trip and have leisurely mornings because I can get like my globalist breakfast via room service, or I don't have to rush out in the mornings. I want to enjoy the amenities that these luxury hotels for $0 provide. And it's funny because I'm spending $0 to stay in these luxury hotels instead of like $150 to stay at or Best Western, So it's like I'm spending less money out of pocket to stay in a nicer hotel. So that is another one. The big one that when I posted this on Facebook originally, my biggest one was not feeling like I have to pack everything into a single trip because I know that I can always return to that place. So I'm an introvert. I don't like being overscheduled. I get stressed out easily and if I feel like overstimulated because there's too much going on. And so I'm not one of those people who's like, okay, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., leave the hotel, and I'm going to be gone. I'm going to come back at 10 p.m. Like, that is not my idea of fun. It's just too much for me. The only time I do that is if I go to Disney. Otherwise, that is not my idea of vacation. So I like that I can just go to a place and feel like I really get to enjoy it because I've done that before. Like before I started with points and miles, I was like, go, 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 see every single thing I can see. But then I feel like you're just seeing stuff to see it and you're not actually getting to enjoy it. And so now I feel like I can slow down, take my time, enjoy the sights, enjoy the food, enjoy the experiences. And I'm just like, okay, well, whatever I miss, I'll just come back a different day. Like London. I've been to London probably 6 or 7 times. And there's still a lot I haven't seen. Like, that's just one of those. It's like New York City. Same with New York City. I've been to New York City like 10 times. You're never going to see everything in a huge city like that, but it kind of takes the pressure off to not feel like you have to see everything. I hate feeling like I need a vacation from my vacation. When you get home and you're just like, oh my God, I'm so like, I just need a vacation. Like, I don't want to feel that way. I want to come home and be like, oh my God, that was so amazing. I can't wait to do it again.
That's like every vacation that kids go on, though. You're like, oh, we took our kids to Hawaii. That was a blast. Well, now I need a vacation from that vacation because
that is true.
It's exhausting taking the family, but it's a blast.
Yeah, no, it's exhausting, but so with kids, they're so unpredictable, so like you can plan, you can have your itinerary, you can have the best of intentions, but when you get to a place, you never know how it's going to go. And so when I used to pay cash for my vacations, I would be like, well, I would put so much pressure on myself to like see everything and do everything. Because I'm like, we have to get our money's worth. We have to, and now I just don't feel that same sense of pressure. Like if we're with our kids somewhere and they're not having it, I'm just like, whatever, we're going to scrap that from our list and like regroup and do it another time.
And I think that goes back to what you say about the weather. Someone said, I would go on a vacation that I had paid for. So if I'm going to Mexico and I'm going to Hawaii and it's not sunny every day, I am bummed. It was the end of the world because I paid really good money for this trip and I want it to be perfect. Now I go on a trip and I think I shock my husband sometimes because it'll be like, the weather's not too good. Oh, well, that's okay. We can kind of just hang around. I'll get some work done, or we can go get massages, or we can just, no big deal. And that was not the 3 points and miles, Pam, at all. The weather was of utmost importance. And now it's like you said, Jess, it's like, okay, the weather doesn't work out great. Okay, well, I'll come back when it does work out better, which reminds me, Alex, we do need to do Bora Bora again. We need a redo on that one, although it was pretty gorgeous anyway. So no matter what your rich life looks like, points and miles can help you get there, whether it's having extra money to spend on experiences or always having a trip to look forward to or taking that big family vacation year after year. It's all possible with points and miles. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to register for our free webinar, How to Get Your Next Vacation for Nearly Free. See you there.
Thanks so much for listening to Points Talk with the Travel Mom Squad. Make sure to hit the subscribe or follow button from wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. Want to start jet setting even faster? Follow the links in the show notes to learn about everything we discussed in today's episode. And to stay connected and follow along, follow us on Instagram at Travel Mom Squad. We can't wait to see where in the world points and miles take you.